everyone, it's Kelsey, and before we jump in, I just want to make sure that everyone who's watching can hear me. So I'm going to take a close look, and great, just give me some hearts if you can hear me. Heart if you can hear me. Alright, let's see. Hi! Great, so I think, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me okay? Yes? Heart, heart? Awesome. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and jump right in. I think everyone can hear me. Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm a nutritional therapist. I am a paleo chef and recipe creator. I am the author of Paleo Sweets, and today you're with me in my kitchen in Santa Monica, and I am going to teach you how to make healthy 4-ingredient chocolate candy. Now, I bet you never thought you would hear those words together in the same sentence. Healthy chocolate candy. Or maybe you're aware that chocolate can be a health food, but you don't know how to make it on your own. Well, I'm really glad you're here with me today so that I can show you and share the gift of healthy chocolate. So we'll go ahead and get started by going over our super simple ingredients. The first thing that I have is chocolate. Done, that's it. It's really only one ingredient. Just kidding. So when I say chocolate, what I have today is baker's chocolate. Now, some of you have heard me refer to this in some of the recipes in Paleo Sweets. Baker's chocolate is basically cacao mass. It's just chocolate that's been ground down, cacao beans that have been ground down into a paste. Baker's chocolate has been heated and tempered so it's a little bit shiny and has more of a snap. If you wanted to make this chocolate raw, you can by all means find a source of raw cacao paste, which will be the same thing, but it hasn't gone through a heating process. So what I'm going to use today, and what you can find at most grocery stores, is baker's chocolate. So I have 6 ounces of baker's chocolate. Next, we're going to grab cacao butter. Now this is a little bit more of a specialized ingredient, but I guarantee you're going to want to include it in the recipe because chocolate on its own can tend to be a little bit bitter. When we add the cacao butter is the fat that's extracted from cacao or chocolate beans. They separate it. It's a really great cooking oil. It's great for your hair, skin, face. It's awesome. But also, it's going to help us cut down some of the bitterness that's in the chocolate if we were just to use it alone. So we have 6 ounces of the baker's chocolate, and I have my handy-dandy food scale. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out half of that amount of cacao butter. So this is another great thing about this recipe. It's really easy to adapt for whatever amounts you want to make. You just want twice as much cacao paste or baker's chocolate as you have cacao butter. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out about 3 ounces, and this might be a little bit big. Let's give it a try. 3.7, that's a little too much. It's a little bit of a guessing game. As you can see, this is like a really nice natural ingredient. This is kind of what cacao butter looks like. It's a solid white chunk. Put that on there. Oops. Perfect, okay. So, these first 2 ingredients are going to go in a glass bowl and pop them in there. I'm going to end up breaking the cacao paste or the baker's chocolate into smaller pieces so it'll melt a little bit easier. It's really easy to do this when you buy it and it's in the wrapper. You can kind of feel along, and they'll usually have the baker's chocolate divided into sections so you know exactly how much you're using. I'm just going to snap that apart. There we go. Pop it open. It's in nice big chunks for us. And I'm going to toss it in this glass bowl. Now, a glass bowl is really important because what we're going to be doing is melting the chocolate. I don't use a microwave at home. You're welcome to pop this in the microwave and heat it probably for about a minute on high. I don't know, you tell me. But you want all of this to get nice and melted. What I like to do, especially because we don't want to burn the chocolate can be really sensitive to heat, is I like to create what's called a double boiler. So I'm going to take a saucepan that's a little bit smaller than the bottom of this bowl because we want the bowl to sit into the top of the saucepan. We'll fill the saucepan with a couple inches of water, set the bowl on top, put the whole thing on the stove, and heat it over medium-low. And that's going to introduce the chocolate to a nice gentle heat, again, so it doesn't burn, it doesn't scald, but it's all going to melt down nice and neat, and it's going to combine really, really beautifully. So I happen to, again, TV magic, awesome, I happen to have some of this going on the stove already. So you can see what I mean when I'm talking about a double boiler. I have the saucepan on the bottom, I have a bowl that sits just in the top right there, And what I'm going to do, since I've had this on the stove for a few minutes, is I'm going to take a glove and I'm going to carefully transfer this on and over. We don't want to burn ourselves, but what I do want to do is turn off the burner. What I do want to do is leave the bowl on top and over the hot water. We want it to stay warm because as we start to add our other ingredients, the chocolate's going to start to thicken and cool a little bit. We want to make sure it's really easy to work with so we can move on to the next steps smoothly. So what I'm going to do is take a whisk. Now I want to point out at this step that you want all of your materials that the chocolate's going to be touching, you want them all to be extremely dry. I recommend washing them, drying them with a towel, and then drying with a paper towel because water will ruin your chocolate. What happens when water touches chocolate is it does what's called seizing, and it'll get really grainy and it just won't be pretty. You can probably still eat it. It'll be more challenging to melt it down, and at the end of the day it ends up being kind of a waste of chocolate, and nobody wants that. So I'm going to carefully, again, I have an oven mitt, you can use a towel, I'm going to touch the bowl. The bowl is going to be warm because remember it's been over boiling water on the stove. I'm going to take my whisk and I'm just going to start to stir around. So remember this is the cacao paste or the baker's chocolate and the chunks of cacao butter that we just measured out. I'm going to gently stir those and it starts to come together in like a nice, smooth, creamy, almost milk-looking chocolate. So again, the cacao butter is softening the bitterness of the chocolate. And we have a nice, beautiful, smooth mixture there. All right, I'm going to set this to the side and we'll move on to our next ingredient. Our next ingredient is going to be our sweetener. I am using honey today, but you can also use maple syrup. For natural chocolates, we're going to be using liquid sweeteners, but I definitely recommend you stay away from agave. Agave is really highly processed. It's processed almost the same way that high fructose corn syrup is. That makes it a much more refined sugar. Even though it supposedly has a low glycemic index, it can have a really negative impact on your blood sugar levels. So today we're going to go with a natural raw honey. I recommend a wildflower honey that has a really neutral flavor, unless there's a specific flavor of honey. For example, eucalyptus honey has a really nice buttery flavor that could pair really well with the chocolate. But if you just want to make a general plain chocolate that's going to be really versatile, stick with like a neutral wildflower honey. I have my liquid measuring cup, and I'm going to measure about 1/3 of a cup of honey. Get down low so I can see. Alright, so that's about 1/3 of a cup. And I have a scraper. So again, this is something that I've washed. I've dried it really well with a paper towel so there's no moisture on it. I'm going to use this to scrape the honey into the chocolate that's sitting on top of the double boiler. So they also make proper double boilers that you can invest in at the kitchenware store. You can order them online, really easy to find. But also, you know, if you want to make one out of I like MacGyvering stuff, so if you want to make something out of what you already have in your kitchen, if you want to be able to make this chocolate later today and you happen to have a glass bowl and a saucepan, then you're ready to go. So it's nice to know this little kitchen hack. It's a kitchen hack for PaleoHacks. Alright, so I'm going to set this aside but not let it go too far because we're going to use it again in a second. So setting the measuring cup aside. So we have our honey in here, we have our chocolate, we have our cacao butter. So the next thing that's going to really bring this flavor together is going to be vanilla bean powder. So vanilla bean powder is really nice. It is powdered vanilla bean, and vanilla is one of my favorite ingredients to add to any desserts recipe because it really enhances the sweetness and rounds out the flavor. So if you don't have access to vanilla bean powder, I order mine online. You can also find it at some specialty health food stores, but what you can do in a pinch is find whole vanilla bean pods. And what you're going to want to do is slice them open with a nice sharp knife, very carefully of course, and scrape out the vanilla bean on the inside, and that is going to give you exactly the same experience as having powdered vanilla bean, a little bit fresher even. You can call it artisan chocolate. What I'm going to do is take this powdered vanilla bean and we're going to add 1 teaspoon. So if you are using whole vanilla beans, you would definitely want probably at least 8 to 10 full beans to get 1 teaspoon of powder. Or you can just add a little bit and have a little bit less vanilla flavor. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of sprinkle that a little bit over the top. And so that's it. That's all we really need, are our sweetener, the cacao butter, the chocolate, and the vanilla. They're going to come together to form a great healthy chocolate. I'm going to add one more thing that you can add to if you want. I'm going to add pink Himalayan salt. Now the salt doesn't have to be pink Himalayan, but of course we encourage you to find a nutrient-dense, not refined salt. So Himalayan salt or sea salt are great options. Salt in general is just a flavor enhancer. So you don't worry that this dessert or these chocolates are going to turn out savory. The salt is just going to help enhance the flavor of the chocolate so it pops that much more in your mouth. So I'm adding 1/4 teaspoon of the salt. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. All right, I'm setting everything aside. I'm going to grab my whisk again and take my oven mitt, holding the hot bowl, so the bowl's still going to be hot. Remember, we left it over the hot water on purpose. I'm just going to start to whisk it all in, and I can feel it start to thicken, and you can even start to see it thicken a little bit, so you'll notice this when you're making it at home. It starts to get a little bit of a texture to it. If it starts to get a little bit grainy, but you know you've dried your bowl and your whisk really, really well, then you don't need to worry that your chocolate is seizing. It will start to get a little bit of a texture as the honey or maple syrup mixes in. So I talked a little bit about using honey, neutral honey, eucalyptus honey as a sweetener, but you can also use maple syrup. You'll add the same amount, about 1/3 cup, and I recommend pure maple syrup, the tree sap, not the pancake syrup, and you can choose either grade A or grade B. Grade B will have a little bit of a stronger maple flavor, but maple pairs really well with chocolate, so it can only make it taste better. Right, maple syrup on everything. All right, so this is coming together really nicely. This is like beautiful, smooth. I'll hold this up so you guys, I don't want to drop it. Hold this up so you guys can kind of see what I'm stirring. It's nice and shiny and smooth. And at this point, I am going to go ahead and remove it from the heat element, which is our boiled water. We'll set this back on the stove. All right, and the bowl's still hot, so I'm going to keep stirring again to kind of bring it together. But at this point, what you can do is customize your chocolate. So it's perfect as is, and I'll show you a couple of different ways that you can mold it or cool it that will create a really nice snack. But if you wanted to add any sort of flavoring at this point, what you'll want to add are either essential oils, nuts, or dried fruit. Again, we only ever use dried fruit, not fresh fruit, because the fresh fruit contains water that would cause the chocolate to seize. We want to use essential oils for flavoring because they're really concentrated. They do have some medicinal properties, and when they're combined with the fats that are in the chocolate, they're not going to be harsh on your system the way they would be if you were taking them on their own. So the example I have here is just some peppermint oil. Lavender is another one I love to use, and rose. Rose oil, well, it can be quite precious and challenging to find, makes a really beautiful rose chocolate. And when you're using essential oils, you only need to use about 6 drops, but of course you can adjust to taste as you're mixing in. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the peppermint oil out for now, but I just wanted to give you guys an example of how you can, you know, make it your own. Get creative, you do you. So we've mixed it all together. The next step, of course, as any good chef does, is going to be to taste the chocolate before we move forward. But I want to encourage you to use what's called a tasting spoon. So it's just, you know, a regular spoon, but we're using it for tasting. I'm going to go ahead and take it and just dip a little tip in. So don't stick your finger in here. Your finger has oils and moisture on it, and it could mess up the chocolate. So we don't want to mess up the chocolate. Gotta stay safe. So I'm just going to take a little taste. That's perfect. I love it. It's really nice and sweet. You can taste the chocolate, but the cacao butter cuts that bitterness. So it is going to be more of a dark chocolate flavor, but it's not harsh and bitter. If you do find you need to take a second taste, flip the spoon over. Avoid the part you just tasted with, again, because you have your saliva on there, moisture can ruin the chocolate. We're going to dip in the oven. Just, you know, quality control. We got to do this. Still good. Still good. So I also want to let you know that you can make this a more diabetic-friendly chocolate or lower glycemic by reducing the amount of honey or maple syrup you use as a sweetener and adding in either powdered monk fruit extract or powdered stevia. So you'll want to add those in at the same time you're adding in the vanilla powder and the salt if you're choosing to use it. But you can adjust. I would recommend reducing the amount of sweetener down to about 1/4 cup and then experimenting with maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of a teaspoon with monk fruit. Use your tasting spoon to adjust the sweetener as you need, and then you'll have a reduced sugar chocolate that everyone can enjoy. So, moving right along, let's see this bowl. All right, it's not too bad. So we'll put that off to the side. And what I'm going to do is show you how to pour the chocolate into molds. I went ahead and I grabbed some really fun silicone molds. I have hearts and stars. So these are some of my favorites, and I particularly like silicone molds for making chocolate because once the chocolate is set in the mold, you can just push it through from the bottom and it pops right out, just like that. Really easy to get in and out. And I think silicone is relatively safe, especially if you're just keeping it in the fridge. We're not baking with these right now. Though silicone is safe for baking. So yeah, I picked up some fun heart molds. I also have flowers, I have fish, palm trees. I go through little chocolate making phases, and I like to have fun designs that I can use to share with friends. It makes it a little bit more fun. Plus, if you are going to add other flavors, like peppermint or lavender, it's nice to have different shapes so you can tell which flavor is which, and you don't just, I mean, you could taste test all of them, but if you want to save some for your friends, it's good to have a little distinguishing mark. So I personally really like putting peppermint chocolates in the star mold, but today I'm going to start out using the heart mold, and what I'm going to do is grab the measuring cup that I used for the sweetener earlier. I'm going to go ahead and tap off the whisk, set that to the side. I'm going to pick it up. Now as I'm picking up the bowl, I want to make sure there's no water on the bottom. Again, for reasons we've discussed, water will ruin our chocolate, and what we're about to do is pour the chocolate into the measuring cup. I'm going to use my scraper to very carefully scrape in as much of it as we can. There we go. Beautiful, smooth, perfect texture for pouring. I'll set this bowl off to the side. I have my silicone mold prepared, and all I mean by prepared is that it's set in front of me. And I'm going to take my scraper and the measuring cup, and I'm going to start to just carefully, how are we going to do this? I'm going to carefully pour into one of the molds, whoops, and then stop. And this is going to get a little messy, but that's part of what makes it fun, right? Remember, we're home chefs, we can make as much of a mess as we want. So as we pour around, it'll get a little bit easier to not overflow the molds. Boop. Go. So you can see I'm going to pour a little bit, and then in an effort to be a little bit less messy, I'm coming in with my scraper, catching that last drop and adding it back into the mix. So there we go. So we have a few beautiful chocolates poured out there, but I want to move on and show you a couple of other ways you can use this chocolate, because not only can we pour it into molds, but we can use it to make chocolate covered strawberries. Now, I love chocolate covered strawberries because they give you that hint of fresh fruit that lets you know that this chocolate dessert is really healthy. So what I have here are a bunch of washed and dried organic strawberries. So they've been patted dry again with a paper towel. I pulled these out a few hours ago, rinsed them, and not only dried them with paper towels, but let them come to room temperature. This is just kind of a trick of the trade. If you're going to make really high quality, delicious chocolate covered strawberries, you want the strawberry to be room temperature, and it allows the chocolate to stick to it a little bit better. So I have that, and then I have a piece of parchment paper covering a flat plate, because we want somewhere to put the strawberries before we pop them in the oven, pop them in the fridge. Alright, so I'm just going to carefully gather up the stem, the green part, gently dip it into the chocolate, and then we'll give it a little shake and a tap off. Another reason we're going to want to leave the chocolate over a heat source and keep it nice and smooth and thin is because it'll create a much more even coat on our strawberries. So it just creates wins all around. Easier texture to work with when pouring. And as much as we love chocolate, sometimes a really thick coat of chocolate on a strawberry can be hard to bite into. We want to create a nice even layer so that hopefully as we bite into the end of the strawberry, the chocolate will stay on the rest of the berry, and we can continue enjoying those nice even bites of fruit and chocolate. So I'll just dip a couple more. Again, just take your time with this. Be gentle. You want to make sure that you're holding the greens in such a way that you don't like rip them off and then you lose your strawberries in the chocolate, and then you just have to eat them. We're going to bring that over here. And I'll do one more, and then I'm going to show you another thing that I love to do. I am making chocolate-covered strawberries. All right, so these again are perfect as is, covered in a really nice, healthy, thin coat of chocolate, but if we want to kick them up another notch, we can add toppings. So toppings are another thing that you can add either to the chocolate-covered strawberries or to the chocolate you have in molds. Right here I have some cacao nibs, so we'll just come up and show you guys what these look like. These are actual chocolate beans. So cacao nibs are, I'll hold one up, this one is a good example. So a cacao nib is just, that's like half a chocolate bean right there. That's what you're eating when you're eating chocolate. It's a mashed up version of that thing. But what you can do with these, they create a nice chocolatey crunch. So I'm just going to sprinkle this on a couple, I love having a little bit of texture. You can, of course, always keep it classic. Don't have to add any toppings. Cacao nibs are one of my favorites, and pecans. Crushed pecans are another one that I love to top chocolate-covered strawberries with. That, and that's beautiful. And now we can take the chocolate-covered strawberries and the chocolate in the mold. If you have your chocolate in a mold, what I'm going to recommend you do is take a sheet pan, and we're going to put the mold on top of the sheet pan, just like so. Carefully transfer, trying not to spill too much more than we already have. And you can pop these both in the fridge. Now, if you don't have strawberries and you don't have molds to put your chocolate in, don't worry, because what you can do is make healthy chocolate bark. And what that means is you're going to take a piece of parchment paper, you're going to line your sheet pan or a plate with the parchment paper, and you can just pour the chocolate directly onto the parchment paper. Make sure it's in a smooth, even layer, spread it out, and again, pop it in the fridge, let it set. Let it set for about 1 to 2 hours minimum, but you can always leave it up to overnight. Now, one thing I want to point out with the chocolate-covered strawberries, let them chill until they're set, about 30 minutes, and then pull them out and keep them in a cool, airtight container. That's the best way to store them. Chocolate doesn't like being kept in the fridge for too long, especially when it's in contact with a little bit of moisture like the strawberries. So if you can, if they're around long enough, you'll want to store them somewhere, airtight container at room temperature. All right, that, we have that, and I want to show you guys a couple of the chocolates that I made earlier this morning. So I'll be right back. I'm going to grab those from the fridge. All right, so what I have here is a couple of heart molded chocolates that I made using maple syrup. So we have the honey ones, they're going to pop into the fridge, they're going to be chilling. And again, I'll just demonstrate what I really love about the silicone molds is I can just pop just like that, so easy. And the recipe that I just gave you makes about ½ a pound of chocolate, so you'd be surprised at how far a seemingly small amount will go. So this will make probably about 2 to 3 dozen chocolate candies. So I think that'll be plenty for you to have as many as you want, and then even to share with some very lucky friends, family, loved ones that you may have. Yeah, so just popping them right out there, super easy. And I'll just give you guys a close-up look. See, this is part of why it can be so fun. Like my little heart. This is why it can be so fun to like have little molds, you know. It makes eating candy even better than it already is. Let's see. That's really good. And it has a really rich chocolate flavor without having any of that weird aftertaste that refined sugar gives you. And that's one thing that's really important for us to remember. Not only does it not have a weird aftertaste and it tastes really good, but it's a really fulfilling and satisfying flavor. And when you're eating whole foods made from real natural ingredients, you're going to feel satisfied with a little bit less. Hi, Julia. Hi from Miami. Oh, Terry in Houston. Hi, my pleasure. Please make some chocolate. Share the love. Yeah, but you're going to feel, so when you're eating real food, you're going to feel satisfied with a little bit less. And that's one thing that I love not only about these chocolates, but all of my desserts and paleo sweets are made with healthy fats, with a lot of healthy protein, with fiber, and with natural sweeteners. And you might notice that you don't need to eat as much to feel satisfied. I had a friend comment that he almost wished that I used refined ingredients because he's used to being able to eat 3 pieces of cake. Now, I don't personally, as a nutritional therapist, recommend eating 3 pieces of cake in one sitting. But you'll notice when you're eating the desserts from Paleo Sweets, when you're eating these amazing chocolate candies, you're going to want to have 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. I mean, for me, they get a little bit rich, but you're going to feel satisfied. Whereas with your traditional candies, you know, you reach into the bag for one, you black out for a second, you come to, and the bag's empty. And you're like, what, who stole my chocolate? And then you have a sugar crash. So yeah, keep that in mind. You'll feel satisfied with less. It's a really delicious, amazing experience, and I'm glad to be able to share these with you guys today. So I'm here, I'm enjoying my chocolate, I'm feeling satisfied with the few bites that I've had, and I want to know if you have any questions. So I do have a couple of minutes for a quick Q&A. So if there's anything you wanted to know about chocolate, if you need reasons to eat more of it, I'm here for you. And there are plenty of delicious chocolate recipes in Paleo Sweets, and I want to take a second just to mention that the cookbook is free. All you have to do is pay shipping. I'll include a link to the cookbook below, as well as including the recipe for these amazing chocolate candies. Yeah, so go ahead and grab a copy. It's a really great idea. I personally have such a huge sweet tooth. That's part of what inspired me to write Paleo Sweets in the first place, is I knew if I was going to eat desserts, I needed them to be healthy. So if you have any quick questions, I'm here for you. Let's see. Hi, Cherise. Hi, Cherise from SoCal. Hey, you're in my neighborhood. It's really great down here. We've been getting a lot of rain, which I love because we were in a drought for a long time, but the sun is out today and we're making chocolate, so it's a good day. All right, well, I think you guys have it. I hope you enjoyed this recipe today. Please let me know if you have any questions at all. You can leave comments in the box below and we'll do our best to respond as quickly as possible. Pick up your free copy of Paleo Sweets. All you have to do is pay shipping and eat more chocolate. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.